Hi, this is Karen. Welcome back to my channel. I have a lot of people ask me about what I do for a living. It's always sort of interesting to people because it seems like it's something they might want to try and do. What I do is called visual merchandising, or I'm a merchandiser. You know, you've seen those people in the grocery stores and in Walmart that are thumbing through the magazines and putting the birthday cards back in order, fixing the sunglasses. Those are all people that have been hired outside the company of, say, Walmart or any other major chain. Their companies will hire us to go in and straighten up. It saves man hours, plus the company that manufactures the product that we're straightening also sees it as being advantageous. Because, think about it like this. When you go in a store and you're rifling through clothes trying to find your size, even though it's something you might like, you don't want to spend a lot of time looking for your size. So you just go on to the next thing. Well, same thing. With our company, we go in and we fix and organize so that the shopper can just walk in the store and easily pick up the item they want. So that's what a visual merchandiser is. Now, it can vary from working in Home Depot or Lowe's or Academies or Dick's or Macy's or Dillard's. It just goes on and on and on. There's work to be done in Dollar Generals and REI, and there are outside companies like mine that I work for now, and I've worked for several. I've worked for a total of 4 different merchandising companies throughout my career, which has not been that long lived. I did merchandising for a company, I don't know, it's been 6, 7, 8 years ago, just to see if I liked it. Now, there are different levels of merchandising. There are people that go and they switch out the DVDs and the automatic DVD players. Although those aren't so popular anymore, that was something that I tried for a little while. And it was all fine and well until you're standing outside in a parking lot changing out these machines in the rain and the sun and the cold. If that's not your thing, then that's not your thing. It wasn't my thing. And I've also done the secret shopping. Again, not something I really want to do. I do like doing visual merchandising of merchandise, whether it be clothing or shoes or socks. It could be anything, and it rotates. Every year the companies renegotiate their contracts and we get different items. I've worked for 2 pretty good sized merchandising companies. The one I maintain is the one that I feel like treats me more fair, gives me more flexibility, pays me well for travel. So if these are things you think you might can do, then visual merchandising might be for you. How do you find the jobs? Well, I happen to have a friend that did visual merchandising for a pet food industry. They would go into the pet food stores and she would merchandise all the toys and the food, and she would do actual demo sales for the dog food. She'd give away free samples. I'm not about that. I don't really care to do the free samples. I don't want to be the lady at Sam's that shoves a cookie in your face. I don't care for that. I don't want to stand in one spot. I want to do something different every day. So the company I work for, I'm not going to tell you the name because it's not fair. We do different things every time we go in the store. Now, we might do the same thing every time we go in the store, but we do the same thing once or twice a month. It's not like we do it repetitively every day. There are big name companies that will hire a visual merchandiser, and they actually work for that company that goes into a department, say Under Armour, in some of your larger sporting goods stores. They have hired people that will go in 2 to 3 times a week, and they will go through and merchandise the entire department every time. Men's, women's, and children's. Fold the clothes, make sure they're hung up straight, and again, it gives the store more man hours for them to work in other areas of the stores. Now, with COVID, that's been real important because everybody has been real short on employees. So we're very much a help to the store right now. What kind of work do we do? I have done minimal stuff like watches in a watch case. I've done big stuff where you go in and you actually, what they call a reset, where everything's changed. All the signage, a big company comes in, they change all the signs, they take all of the existing hardware, which is the things that we hang clothes and stuff on, out. They bring in all new stuff, and we have to take all the old, the clothing off, put the new clothing on, put in the new lines, and it takes quite a while. And we're part of that team that comes in there and does that. But don't do a lot of that. I actually enjoy doing that part. And then there's some things that you do weekly, some things you do bi-weekly, sometimes you just do it once. It just really depends on your company and where they get their contracts from. We do a lot of boots and shoes. And again, people say, well, how can they afford to have you go in there? Well, if you think about a good pair of heavy work boots and the cost of the work boots, they go anywhere from $80 to almost to $200. They will pay me to drive or fly me to a different city when there's multiple stores of this same type that carry this brand. Well, if by me merchandising and straightening these products, gives them a sale extra of 4 boots of the top dollar boots, well, then that's paid for my plane tickets, paid for my hotel. It's worth it to them. Plus, I do other jobs while I'm there. Now, when you go to look for jobs in the merchandising field, it's advantageous to find a company that pays you door to store, which means they pay you from the time when you're traveling. Now, this is not when your local stores don't, when you work for your local company or in your local area, your territory, I should say, they don't pay you. That some companies give you an allowance a month for your travel, and then you're paid hourly. When you work out of town for these companies, a lot of them don't pay you until after the first 100 miles. Well, that's a lot of miles. That's a lot of driving. That's, almost an hour and a half of your time in the car, and then your gas and the wear and tear in your car, you're giving them the first hour and a half. I didn't really care for that too much. And they would pay my hotel, and I would have to buy my food and then bring the receipts back home, put them in the scanner, scan them up. Well, I don't eat out. I bring my own food. I have a real sensitive stomach, and I don't eat out. So I found my niche with this company that I work for now, and they pay me from the time I leave my house in hours, from the time I leave, say I'm driving, say to Austin. If I drive to Austin from my house, it's like 6 hours. So they pay me 6 hours of my pay time. Plus, they give me an allowance for the gas, the wear and tear on my car, and they give me an allowance for the hotel and food. Now, it could, I don't stay in high-end hotels, and I bring my own food. So a lot of the money that I make extra is the travel money. Now, it is wear and tear on my car, but I think it's worth it by the time I get paid my travel, and I do all the jobs that I'm there to do. I get paid for that. To me, it's worth it. And I enjoy the travel. I enjoy meeting people. I like going to the different stores. So it has been a welcome change for me. I've done this full time for the last 4 years. Previously, I was in the veterinary industry. I worked with a lot of people. I worked in a hospital that had 5 doctors, and I helped maintain the staff and the facility. And the phone calls and working with other people that didn't really want to be there, and scheduling, and it just got to be, I wasn't enjoying it anymore. And I was getting up in age. I am 64 years old. Now, saying that, sometimes some of the projects require you to have a little bit of physical ability. Now, I'm still pretty good shape. Do I want to climb a ladder and redress a mannequin? Not like I used to. And I have had one fall. Didn't hurt the mannequin, and didn't hurt anybody, didn't hurt myself, but I realized right then I'm going to have to start asking for a little bit of help. You really need to ask for help. The problem is sometimes the stores are just so short-handed that in your time frame that they don't have the person to come help you when you need help. And there are some other projects that I've turned down because I just didn't physically think I could do it. Now, my husband goes with me sometimes, and that really does help. We can knock out a project in half the time. We can take on more projects. And the company likes that because not only do they get more done and more bang for their buck, they don't have to have the second person stay in another hotel, renting them another car. So when he goes with me, we team up and we get stuff done. And it's been a lot of fun for us. We've really enjoyed it. COVID shut us down for a couple of months, or actually, a long time. So we didn't get to go a lot during that time, and I'm still very, very careful. But the kind of work that we do is really suited for COVID, because I go in the stores and I log in, I use my own pen, I wear an N95 mask. The things we work on are kind of away from people. You don't have to talk to anybody if you don't want to. I mean, customers will come and ask you questions, and you just sort of say, I'm not a store employee, but let me see what I can find out for you. So you're not really interacting with them a whole lot. When I get back in the car, I go to the bathroom before I leave. Usually I wash my hands really well, and I get back in the car, I spray myself down with alcohol. You do the best you can do. I've been vaccinated. So far, I've been well. Haven't had any problems. So I'm going to work on giving you some more tips on what to do if you are a merchandiser. Some ways you can save money. Now with COVID, the price of hotels have gone up exponentially. It's ridiculous. I'm in Gulfport, Mississippi this week. I used to come down here and stay at the Harrah's for $55 a night. Now, bringing my own food might be a problem because they don't really have microwaves and stuff like that. So I have to kind of take that into consideration. You can still bring a cooler, and you can still have some of the stuff that you need to fix yourself a meal. And there's a coffee maker. Well, after COVID, when I called to put my room at the Harrah's, it was $178 a night, and it has not gone back down. So I started searching around. Of course, all the hotels have gone up. So what I resorted to this last 2 visits I've come down here is I've started looking on Airbnbs. Now what I do is I go ahead and book my hotel just in case I can't find somewhere. And then I start looking on the Airbnbs. And as the dates get closer, now this has been through the summer, so it's been really tough because this is a tourist area because they have a beach here. Well, lo and behold, I found a Airbnb complex apartment, which is walking distance of the beach. And it was $55 a night, which was a lot better than $170. Now Airbnbs do charge some service fees, a cleaning fee, so it ramps it up to about, I think that one ramped it up to about $80 a night, and I was perfectly happy with that. Now the only downside to Airbnbs is if you get finished early with your work and you say you want to go home, you can't check out of the hotel and cancel the next night and get that money back. So you pretty well know that when you book that Airbnb, you're out that money. But right now, I just stayed in Jackson, Mississippi last week, and the Airbnb I got for an extra night for what I would have still paid for a hotel and canceled a night. So it worked out really well. I'm back down here this week in Gulfport. I'm staying in a lovely, lovely condo. It's really an apartment. It's in here units. There's like 4 units here, and each unit has 6 apartments. I'm on the lower floor. I can look out my window and see the Gulf. I walked over today and sat on the beach for an hour when I got through my work a little bit early. It was just super, super nice. It is super, super nice, and I don't have a problem paying for it. 5 nights here ran me right at $500, and I'm okay with that. It's very nice. It's clean. You always want to make sure you're booking with a superhost. Superhosts are people that have a long history of 5-star ratings. And then I always read the comments below to make sure that it is still up and up. Everything is good. A lot of times people in the comments will disclose just a little bit of something you might need to know, like the place was great, it was clean, the host was wonderful, except they didn't have a hairdryer. Well, then I'll know I need to bring a hairdryer. And the same thing, sometimes the kitchen stuff lacks a little bit, or they won't disclose that it's on the 2nd story, so you know that you're going to be hauling your luggage upstairs and all your food upstairs. But that's okay. because I really do enjoy staying at Airbnbs. Now let's talk about some of the things that I have learned that I have to have when I'm traveling, and the things that make my life easier as a merchandiser. The one thing you always want to make sure you have is a good phone, a good working phone that's got a good camera. I don't necessarily use my camera for my merchandising work. It does have a good camera, and every once in a while I get in a bind and I'll use my camera. I don't use it for my reports. It's too small. It's an iPhone 11 Pro. I have old eyes. I can't see. I mean, I can in a pinch if I have to. You have to make sure that your time date stamp works on your photos, or they won't accept them. We use time date stamp photos as our check-in and check-out. Our first photo checks us in on a job, and our last photo has a time date stamp, and it checks us kind of out. It's kind of the way that we get paid. What I like to use is a iPad. It's bigger. This one is pretty old. It's probably 4 or 5 years old. I'm really thinking about getting a new one because they're a little bit lighter than this one, but I mean, it's paid for and it still works. It's in a case that's what they call military grade, because I have dropped this several times and it's never broken. So iPad is the way to go. And then what I do is I go to the car before I leave, and I make sure I have all of my photos that are required for my reports. My biggest problem is sometimes I will leave a store, which is fine if you live in the area, but if you're working out of town and you're driving, say, through a city, and you're driving to the next city and then to the next city, and you wait and you get to the hotel that night and you look and you've missed a couple of photos, well, that's a no-no. That's a big no-no in the industry. Photos are what the companies want to see. They want to see their product in the store, how it's displayed, how you have arranged it, and the after picture. So when you don't have a photo, that's really like the worst thing ever. So when I make sure my photos are entered, and then when I get to the hotel, I have a Chromebook. Now it's slightly, it's pretty big. It's a computer basically. It opens up like this, and then it also opens up like a tablet. So it's a lot bigger, and you can actually put in your reports, and you got a keyboard. So I like the keyboard factor also. So what I can do is the pictures that I've uploaded into my iPad, I save and then open up the same reports on the notebook, and it's just easier for me to do it that way. Now, a lot of nights I will go in the night before and I will answer. There's certain questions that are always the same. Did you read the instructions? Does this store have this? And if it's a store that you've done before and you know what they have, you can sort of answer some of the questions ahead of time. And I can go ahead and answer some of them ahead of time, and even if they're wrong, I can change them. But that way you've got most of your boxes already checked. But you have to be careful that if you've done something different, that you go back and fix it. This is a lot to take when you're traveling. Going through an airport, usually I have my Kindle because I have books on there, audio books and books, and then I have my iPad, and then I have my phone. So I have a whole tray at the airport with just my electronic stuff in it. Now I carry my electronics with me generally in my backpack. I don't put them in my suitcase ever. So they're all in my backpack. I carry a backpack with just my essentials in case my luggage gets lost. I still have all my contact information that I have from my jobs, my rental car stuff, that is always in my backpack. So if I get to the airport and they've lost my luggage, I can at least still work. You know what I mean? So you're not at a loss there. Also, when I travel, now my husband and I did this when we flew to Vegas, and we were going to be there for almost a week and a half. I rented an Airbnb that had, of course, a full kitchen, and of course you can't take your food with you on the plane. So what I did is I found a Walmart. I looked up, and the Walmart was like right around the corner. We flew in that night late, like at 10 o'clock, and we went to bed. We got up the next morning. What I did is I did the Walmart online shopping at that store. Duh. So we got up the next morning and we went and picked up our online shopping. We opened up the trunk. Boom, they loaded it. We drove back to the condo we were staying at, and we put the food away, and we ate in our condo that whole week and didn't have to spend any money on food out. In Vegas, it's a lot more expensive to eat around there than it is anywhere else, and it's just healthier. It's just a healthy thing to do, to make sure you always have plenty of water in your vehicles and don't eat out. It's just we did splurge and eat out maybe once, but it's just a better way to work, and if you want to make money. So those are my tips for that. Now, when I also travel, I try to always wear, I perspire a lot, okay? And once my sweat button gets pushed, I sweat and can't quit. So I wear clothes that are comparable to somebody that sweats, like the fishing gear. Well, Columbia makes a good fishing shirt, and they make women's shirts that are made out of the stuff that's real airy and it dries real quick. So if I do perspire, it sort of dries fast and I don't have this sweaty look about me all the time. It also travels well. You can roll those dudes up, and after you get to the hotel, you can pop them out, hang them up, and they're just fine. Another thing you want to be sure when you're getting your Airbnbs, a lot of them will have a washer and dryer. So you don't have to pack a whole lot. You pack a couple of days worth, and then you laundry your stuff, and you got another couple of days worth, and you're not carrying an extra load of all these clothes. It is just something you have to learn. Always carry an extra pair of shoes. You don't want to be sloshing around in a pair of shoes you happen to walk through a mud puddle in, or got caught in the rain and your socks and shoes got wet. Always carry extra pair of shoes. It may not be your favorite pair, but at least have something as a backup as far as your shoes. Medicines are the same way. I never put my medicines in my carry-on bag. I mean, even the carry-on, they still make you put them in that under the belly sometimes. So I don't do that. I always carry everything in my backpack like that. My medicines, all of my notes, anything like that goes in that backpack. That is my extra bag. And then I still have my carry-on. So I still have those too. Most of the time I can always get away with just those two items by the time I pack small. And trust me, if you forget your toothpaste, there's a Walmart on every corner. It's not the end of the world. But if they lose your suitcase, you've got clothes on your back, you've got your stuff to start work, you can actually still carry on. I always carry an extension cord, an extra iPhone charger in my, I put the extension cord in my luggage, and I put an extra phone charger always in my backpack. It just makes sense. And if you travel a lot, you already know all this. So, and in my car, I carry a lot of extra water. I carry a battery charger unit that has an air compressor. That's a really, really good investment. Sam sells them for like $69. I think maybe they've gone up to about $79. You can catch them on sale every once in a while. It's a big unit, but if you get stranded on the side of the road, or if you're in a hotel and the power goes out, you actually can go out there and get that. It has a light on it. You can still, you can power a small fan. You can charge your phone. You're not just, without. And it's just a good thing to have. In case your car doesn't want to start, you can jump it off. Or you can air a low tire. It's a very, very nice thing to have. And it makes you feel a little more comfortable. I also carry a spare cell phone, a throwaway phone. I have certain areas that I travel in Arkansas that my AT&T carrier does not. I go miles. I mean an hour sometimes, and I don't have cell service. I know we all used to travel without cell phones, but now it's just not a healthy thing to do. I travel alone a lot, so I got a little $25 a month phone, and a Nokia, and it's through Verizon, and it lives in the glove box, just in case. Not had to use it, but there was a situation where I was down in San Antonio working, was driving back about 4 o'clock in the morning, was headed to Lake Charles. I was going to try to get there early. It was dark. I ran over something. They think it may have been a tire iron. I had a flat on I-10 in the dark, right outside of San Antonio, and I got off the interstate. Long story short is it ended up putting a hole through the rim in my tire. So they had to, and I did not know this. It sounded like it, but whatever I hit the back bumper, and my car was 2 weeks old. 2 weeks old. Hit the back bumper, tore it up. I didn't know it because it was dark. I got out and looked, but I didn't look at the back bumper. I just looked at the tire. A police officer made me get off the road onto some little service road. Well, while I was waiting, I was trying to text my husband, and I was looking at the numbers for the tire service, roadside assist. And to my horror, I had no service. Now, everything's been good as long as I have my phone. I had no service. It would toggle in service for a moment, and then it would toggle, and then it would say no service. So I would get a little service sometimes. I would dial and call people. It all ended up okay. I ended up having to go back into San Antonio on a donut to a tire center. My insurance company had me go to a collision place. And I ended up leaving late the next day. So it was all good, but then it was kind of scary when I looked down and I had no service. So after that incident, I have an extra phone. So let's talk about attire, what you want to wear when you're working. You want to wear something comfortable, something that you can squat and stand and bend and stoop and kneel and feel pretty comfortable in. Women, you don't want to wear anything low cut. What I have on right now is perfectly fine. You don't want to wear a lot of loose dangly earrings and bracelets and that sort of thing. When you're moving a lot of clothes and hangers, you get all hung up in them. You want to actually look nice, keep your hair done, pull your hair back if it's long. You want to wear pants, not ripped up jeans. You don't want to wear pedal pushers. You don't want to wear shorts. You want to wear a nice pair of working pants, something that is new looking and crisp, okay? Khakis, I don't care if they're dress slacks, and you want to wear comfortable shoes. No open toe shoes, and that's basically a safety thing in case you drop something on your foot. You don't want to have open toe shoes. So, a good pair of tennis shoes that you're standing in all day, or you can climb up on a ladder and feel comfortable, is really what you aim for. I also carry with me, these are Vera Bradley bags. Now this works for me because I can drop my iPad in this part. I can put my keys back here, and then my cell phone fits right in here. Now in the front part, I carry scissors and a lot of different hardware type things, because I'm telling you, these stores, when you go in and they send in these projects, like this is a screwdriver with a Phillips and a flat on the end of it. I can't tell you how many times I've had to use that. Box cutters, zip ties, just some basic things in here. And I always carry like blank index cards so I can write information on this side and just slip it back in here. Most of the time when I ask the store manager what his name is, the first and last name, I'm older, I walk away 2 feet, I can't remember what his name is. So I make sure I write stuff down now, and then I'll have it for later when I'm doing my reports. Also, when I call the store ahead of time, a lot of times we do what they call pre-call. Let them know we're coming. Is the product there? Can you have it ready for me? When you make that phone call, you write it on a piece on here too. So when you're filling out your report, or you go in the store and you go, hey, Jeff Blackman said he's going to have that pallet out for me to have the product ready to go on the, that sort of thing. And you're armed with that. And that's pretty much it. Scissors, always carry scissors. It's just a smart thing to do. And that way it's a hipster. It's a crossbody bag. Now for guys, I actually made my husband one that he wears on his hip. It's kind of like a fanny pack, but it holds his iPad. You have to have, when you're working, you've got to have it. A lot of times I'm filling out my report as I go. I'm making pictures. I'm uploading them as I go. So you don't want to go and put it in the car. And I certainly don't like to leave mine in the car when it's hot. So that works for me. Might not work for everybody. And a lot of young people, they're perfectly happy using their iPhone. Again, I just can't see it. My eyes are just not good enough for that anymore. So I will work on some more tips for you. Now also understand, if you're a merchandiser, and most companies will make you get an employee ID number, which is basically they pay you with a 1099. They don't hold out taxes. Some of them do now, The one I work for does not. They do not hold out any taxes. So all the money that I make, whether it be for the actual work or for travel, I get it's a lump sum 1099. Now, to help with that, you want to make sure you keep every receipt for everything that you do. All of your gas receipts, you want to make sure that you take, if you've got a car maintenance, you take care of those receipts. I keep an envelope in my car for everything that I do receipt wise, as far as if I stop at Sonic and get a blast and I'm in Gulfport, then I put it in that's part of my food for while I'm here, if I get to have a treat like that. Sometimes if I buy actual food when I'm here, if I go to Walmart and I buy food, I use that receipt because that is the food that I'm eating while I'm away from home. Even though it's not Taco Bell and it's not Chili's, it's still in that time frame that I am down here in Gulfport. And now if I bought my grandbaby a pair of shoes and it's on that ticket, you got to take that off of there, of course. But you know, if you have that ticket, you want to make sure you keep that. You make sure you keep all of your hotel receipts. You make sure that you write down your mileage on every trip. And if you can't remember, then you just go back and say, okay, I know I went to Gulfport on this day, and you estimate mileage. You can do that with Google Maps pretty simply. So at the end of the year, you've got all these write-offs that bring down that tax amount that you're going to have to pay. And it's very helpful to be able to have that. I mean, your phones are you can take that away. And if you're using part of your home as an office, they're getting away from that somewhat, but they still they allow you just a little bit. So you want to make sure that you have all that knowledge, and of course check with your tax people and make sure that what you've got is legit. Now there's some gray areas you can kind of walk and get away with, but it's kind of scary to do that sometimes. So that's my tips on that. Now, I also carry a firearm with me. I started out with just the mace, and that's okay. If you get it, you can turn it on, and I don't know. I carry mace. I still carry mace. I carry it. It's in the console right here in the car. Put it right here. Then I had a lady friend of mine give me a zapper, one of those things you can push the button and you can touch somebody and it lays them out. The problem with that is they got to be within right here. The theory was that it clips on your belt. And when I was taking luggage in and out of hotels, especially like when I leave in the middle of the night, like 3, 4 o'clock, I'm getting up to travel somewhere else. And I've had the occasion to have somebody walk up on me, and it scared me. A gentleman, this was in New Orleans, walked up on me and wanted to know if I had water. And then he wanted to know if he could use the bathroom in my hotel room. And I'm standing at the car. So I politely put my hand in my shirt like I had a weapon, and I told him he better back up. And he did, and I promptly went inside and I called the front desk. So that scared the bejeebers out of me. So, even though I had the zapper, it stuck in my belt loop and I couldn't get it off, and it would have been worthless. And the fact that somebody really pretty much has to grab you and then you have to zap them. So with that being said, I did buy a gun. So my husband went with me, and we both concealed carry. Now there's some controversy about carrying a weapon. This is my choice. I've never carried a gun before. We go out to the firing range and I practice. I carry it in the car. When I come into the hotel room, I carry it with me inside, and I lay it on the nightstand next to the bed. It just kind of gives me a little bit of warm fuzzy, and that's all I can say. You're either pro gun or you're not. It's just my choice, and it's one I can make, and it's one I've made. So there's that. So I hope me talking about visual merchandising gives you a little better idea. Again, the field is wide open, and to find a job in visual merchandising, you can either know somebody that already does this, and they can kind of hook you up with the company they work for. But generally, people want to come to me and they go, I want to do what you do. What company do you work for? Well, if you live in the same area as I do, you're not getting my job because that's my territory. And you don't have to travel. Now, if I was to do just my territory, I would starve because I only have a couple of stores in my territory. For me to make money, I have to travel. Like I said, and I enjoy it. So, as long as I'm healthy and I feel good, it's perfectly okay with me. And my husband doesn't mind me traveling. He's retired. He's at home. He's taking care of all the animals. When he travels with me, we have to have somebody come and take care of stuff. And it's just easier sometimes if he doesn't come. If you want to start doing visual merchandising, type it in. Visual merchandising or merchandising. Now be careful because a lot of times merchandising comes up under Lowe's and Home Depot. Those are actually store employees, and some other little stores that'll say merchandising. It needs to say visual merchandising, and there's several companies out there. You just have to kind of find out what they do, and then I go through and look for reviews on those companies because some of them you don't want to work for. Now understand, if you're the sole breadwinner in your family, merchandise is probably not for you. This is something that women can do, and men that are retired, or in some of the bigger companies, yeah, you can make really good money. There's other things you can do. There are the people that go into the store that build the displays. That's a whole nother area. Now, there are bigger companies that do that. They're display builders. I can't quite think of the name of what they're called. But they pull down some pretty hefty bucks, but they travel. They have to travel to do that. Merchandising allows you to schedule, as long as you're scheduling within the date parameters of these jobs. They don't care. Sometimes they'll say, don't go in the stores on Saturdays or Sundays for this project. And you know that ahead of time. But you can still, pick a day where you're not busy, or you can schedule your stuff. That's what I do. I have I have a book, and then I'll pick them up. And then say I have, my mom has a doctor's appointment I have to check her to. I'm getting my eyes checked on this day. I'll look on here and I'll write everything down. And then I usually write down what cities I'm going to be in and sort of pencil in the jobs that I'm going to do. And I keep all of these too because I go back to reference sometimes. Did I do this? Did I go to this place? And wow, has it been 3 years since I went there? It's kind of fun to do that. So you don't want to, you don't want to schedule something on your granddaughter's birthday. So, make sure you keep up with your time and your, on a schedule. So that's about all I have for you. Again, this is not for everybody. I have had friends that have tried it and they're like, I don't like it. I don't like having to do that. Well, it is something that you really, if you're an organizer, if you like to organize and you like to fold clothes, and this is probably for you. I really have grown and learned and met a lot of people, and you've got to be kind of a people person because you want to go into the store, you want to be pleasant, you want them to want you to be there. Look people in the eye, call them by their name, and make somebody smile that day, and life is good. So if you have any questions, you can leave it in the comment section. I'll try to see what I can do as far as answering. I check those pretty regularly. If you like my little channel, like and subscribe. I have a whole lot of other stuff on here. When I'm not doing this, I make jewelry. I have an embroidery machine. Anyway, it's a lot of fun to share this part of my life with you. And like I said, a lot of people have been curious about what I do. So hopefully this gives you some ideas. Again, if you have any questions, just ask. Thanks.